Okay, so we have all 4 sound files. Now, you can probably guess what's next. We'll need 4 sound file players. Actually, that's not true. We only absolutely need 2 at the most. So imagine this. Let's see. Imagine these sound files are cassettes. And we'd only ever hear 2 of these at once. The reading point is only ever going to be between 2 waveforms. So if we're reading between 0 and 1, like say 0.6, it's going to mix between the first and the second file. If we're at, let's say, 2.3 as the Y position, it's only going to be between the second and the third tape cassette or sound file. So you can imagine this juggling of tape cassettes that we could program to avoid having all 4 sound file players. But I think in the end that trickery isn't necessary. The sound file players aren't large objects. We are using more than we absolutely need to, but we're also programming this on, like, I can't imagine anyone's on a computer with less than 8 gigs of RAM, honestly. So we're fine. So instead of a single sound player, we will need 4 sound players. 4, and as our sound reference, we'll need sounds 4. So those will be passed in. The sounds will. It probably already is broken. Yeah, it is. So let's think about this. First, let's get the Y position. So let's make a new variable, Y pause. It's a float. And we'll set that void set Y pause. Y pause equals new Y pause. And no, we didn't have to set any of these in the constructor because these are passed in the setup loop, or these are determined in the setup loop. I guess hypothetically, yeah, these values might not get here in time because the audio thread starts at the end of the setup loop, and then immediately openFrameworks will move to the update function, but it's already started the audio thread. So it actually is a little bit of a gamble, but we'll see if we run into issues. I'll take a note that might be one. Okay, so the Y position, remember, is 0 to 3, and we'll interpolate between wavetables. So we'll know, or sorry, they are wavetables, but sound files. We'll know which one we are. Say we are at a Y position of 2.3. We know that we need to use sound file 1 or 2 and sound file 3, and we'll mix those according to how far we are in between them. So that will be linear interpolation. That's very easy linear interpolation, just because it's separated by integers. So right, but first let's just get this working the way it used to. So sound players at 0. And sounds at 0. Sound players at 0. Okay, and let's think about this. How about, for right now, we take the Y position and we don't mix, we just truncate. So if we're at 2.4, we chop off the 0.4. We're using sound player 2, which has sound file 2. I think that will just save us a lot of headache. So our Y position will start off as 1.5 apparently. Let's go ahead and just start that at 0. So our Y position will equal 0. All right, one thing we need to do is actually pass in our array of buffers, our array of sound files. So this happens here. Right now we're just passing in the first one. But I think this is correct. I think we can still access the consecutive memory, or the following pieces of memory this way. We'll verify that shortly. So for int I equals 0, I less than 4, increment I, sounds at I equals input sound at I. I believe that's correct. Yes, that feels right. This is a little weird pointer stuff. It's for int I. Oh, we can just do this here. Sound players at I equal new sound sound player, and we'll reference the sounds at I. That's a little convoluted, I think is the best word, but I think it's correct. We don't want this anymore. Alright, so this gets the reference for each sound, all 4 of them, and then it attaches that reference to its respective sound player. If this hurts your head a little bit, you're in good company. Okay, so this is good. Alright, so when a grain starts, we only need to use the sound players that are related to that sound, which will be we're going to use a for loop. We only need to use it twice, but I equals 0. So we only need to use 2 sound players, even though we have 4 in memory. I is less than 2. Put this here. Sound players at Y, or let's see, the truncated Y position. So for that 2.3, this will be 2 plus I, so 2 plus 0, and then next time it'll be 2 plus 1. So it'll grab the surrounding sound players. Okay. So those are both enabled and playing. But for now, let's just grab the bottom one, the truncated one. So sound players at Y, the truncated Y position. We'll process it. Process the phaser. Sound players at Y position. Truncated. Get sample. Okay, so if I'm very lucky, this will work, and when we move the slider, it's going to just pick between those sound files. Okay, good. Just an S. I would be surprised if it didn't fail. Okay, so input sounds. Yes. Oh boy. I think that's right. Well, let's just try it. Yeah. I'm getting to that point where I'm playing the asterisk ampersand game. Just throwing them everywhere and hoping something sticks. Let's find out exactly where it failed. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm surprised. See if it actually. Ah. Bad access, huh? Oh, okay. Well, wait. The wipe is it? So I was equal to 0. Okay, and then so if this would be 0 plus 0, so sound player at 0 plus 0. Not allowed access there, huh? So what does that mean? If I can't access sound player at 0, it must mean that that memory is not set yet. And we're setting it here. So sound players at 0 equals new sound player with a reference of sounds at I. So that's happening. And it's not complaining, it's letting this happen. So sound players I wanted to just try this again. I wouldn't expect it to change anything, but I didn't change anything. Okay. Odd. Definitely odd. It's not working. I think that's clear. But we also, there's no reason it would work. We haven't set that here yet. So, I mean, I'm still, you know what? I think this is going to be fine. I don't know what that error was, and maybe it'll just go away forever. Maybe, oh, you know what? I caught myself. Well, first we'll set this. Set Y pause to, what do I call it? Y location? The name of the slider. That was never set. Perhaps that was the issue. So I didn't have. maybe what it does is whatever memory happens to be at the location at the time of instantiation, it'll use that value. And maybe the first time we ran, it's random access, so it just picked a random spot. Maybe this time we got lucky. Now it'll put Y position as 0, and hopefully it's a guaranteed work. I shouldn't say that kind of word around this compiler. Ah, okay. But, you know. Alright, so when it's being processed, whoa, what is this? Sound player broke, huh? This isn't the library. So current sample is linear interpolation of the reference, the get buffer, phase, so that would mean that the reference was wrong. Let's try again. I want to put a pin in that. I realized one issue we had with the amplitude. Right hand spread times center amplitude. So we were getting a lot of them that were below 0 and then clamped to 0 when it's quiet. So now it's actually going to squeeze all of them into that range. But that wasn't the issue at hand, but let's check to make sure that fixed that. That's a lot better. Get a little bit more nuance. You know, there's a lot of quiet grains existing. That's all well and good. Let's break it. Okay. So what does that mean? The references might be wrong. So sound at 0 is working fine, and it's getting the address. No, it's dereferencing it, so it's getting. Wait, the sounds is array of floats. Yes. Oh, not array of floats. Sorry, an array of sound files, pointers. Okay. So the sound player is what's crashing, and I don't think it's an issue with the library. I have a feeling we're giving it a bad reference. I mean, this, you know, are by definition identical. Let's go ahead. Don't think that should change. I mean, it shouldn't change anything, but I don't know. Same issue. Excuse me. So the sound player does not have access to which part of this? I'm assuming the reference get buffer of Maybe I'm doing pointer arithmetic wrong. I thought. Just going to think out, or I guess continue to think out loud. So the sound players at I equals a new sound player. You know, I have a hunch here. Let's just do this at 0. So every sound player will be referencing the same buffer. And it's fine. So the issue is what I think is happening is not happening. So I'm handing it in the constructor. I'm giving it the wait. I'm playing the ampersand game here. Yeah, anybody really familiar with data types in C++ are having a laugh right now, I'm sure. Trying to pass an array of sound files in as a reference. I don't want to pass the actual sound files in, that'd be insane. So passing in a reference to the sound, so that should be the array. And when I try to access I'm going to put that back. Okay, should I dereference it? Yeah. Really? Doesn't hate that. Still seems wrong. It seems wrong to me. This is peak failure on my end, but it seems happy. I don't believe it. Okay. So we're back to where we... How are we back to where we... Oh, okay. So apparently, sounds at 0 is the same thing as the dereference sounds. Which, yeah, arrays do that. All right, here we go. We're to that point. Passing an array by reference. So we have a coordinate, some method, okay, this is a similar problem. So we have a function called reset. It gets an array of integers. Array is 10, and this array is passed in. What's 10 size of? If you want to change the array itself, you can do it. Oh, oof, here we go. Yeah. Don't need to do that though. Alright, let's see if there's something closer. Okay. So the way I was doing it is here. So I'm passing it in correctly. Once I pass it in, how do I mean, that's bizarre. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this asterisk. This should just make it the same as it is now, but well, so, let's go back. I don't need the size information, that's fine. Yeah, I've been here before. This is pretty gnarly. I'm surprised it's worked at all, to be quite honest. I mean, if it works for the first element, putting input sounds at if it works at I equals 0, I don't see why it wouldn't equal the work for I equals 1, because it knows to look for the next block of memory directly after that, and it knows that the block size is the size of the sound file class. Oh, okay. I think I might know the issue. Here's what we're going to do. Sound file has variable. This might be the entire problem. Sound file has dynamic memory allocation, obviously, because you pass in a variable sized sound file. So when you move to the next block, it doesn't know how big each block is. They're not the same. So there might be a better solution to doing this. We are going to go brute force, folks. All right. Sound 1. You know what's coming. Sound 2. sound 3, and sound 4. Okay, we are going to get rid of this nice and convenient function, or at least for this part. We may have to do this in the main file as well. Maybe an array of variable size things is not the greatest solution here. Not something I had thought of. But, you know, however, it seems to be working because we were able to display all of those sound files. Or so we think. There's not really a good way of knowing if those are displayed correctly. It might be just not throwing an error or crashing. I will note that the fourth sound file doesn't look like there's anything there. Right, so that is what's happening. Because when I switched it, it didn't switch the shape. Okay, so not using an array for the sound files. We can still use an array for the sound file players. Alright, so this is tedious. Sound 1. Okay, we're still good. No, actually, I'll point out a mistake that I've made before. Sound 2, sound 3. If you did this like you could do with other variables, it would not work. It would need, well, we still could do it. We need to put an asterisk here, here, and here. I don't like that. I like the asterisk being on the data type. That makes way more sense to me, since it is indicating a different data type. So sound 2. Okay. Need these to be named differently. You are witnessing a moment that would benefit from a degree in computer science. But here I am, and here we all are. So sound 2. Okay, and yeah, we can't use the for loop here just because these are uniquely named. So this will be referencing sound 1. Ultimately, a solution needs to be right. We need to come to a solution at some point, because if we did want to do something that was beyond 4, this would be unreasonable. And there is definitely a solution out there, but we have limited amount of time. This is already going to be an insanely long process. Okay, so, well, not insane, but you know, we have the sounds coming in. We have the sound files being set. That's all kosher now. We need to go back here. Let's see. Oh, whoops. No longer doing this. I thought we'd be slick, but here we are. Sound file. Okay, and we'll have to pass in sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, and sound 4. That wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Hopefully this all catches up and we can know if we've butchered anything else. Okay, so this is still valid, these sound player objects. So that should be good. We can actually go ahead and, I mean, we've changed so much, I can't imagine it would run. But we'll find out. Scroll down, what do we have? Correct. Okay, so can't use a for loop here anymore. Sound 1, draw 20, 20, 400, 20, sound 2, sound 3, sound 4. Okay, cool. So we can actually move between sound files we're granulating. Ah. What's it mad about? Wait, what? Why would I? That's bizarre. I should do that. But why did I have bad access, I wonder? And the scary point. Okay, so it does not want to play the 4th sound file. And for some reason it's bringing us here. Wait, can you take me to the code where this is messing up? Ah, okay. Very, very clear what's wrong here. I'm setting in this function the current sound player plus the next sound file player to these gather my thoughts here to these settings. So when I'm on the final sound file player, it's trying to set the 5th one to these settings, and there is no 5th one. So we need to clamp this clamp. Well, that's it will set it twice, but the solution will work. 0 to 3 of clamp So when it does this and it tries to do the next one, it will redo itself, which is, you know, a flaw, but we won't notice that flaw. No, what's it going on about? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. We have to of clamp returns a float, and it doesn't like that. So we have to remake it an integer, even though we put an integer in, it got a float out on accident, but can't win them all. And it might not be clear what the goal is. I might have done a bad job at making that clear. Let's do a better job. Let's draw a circle where the sound file would be reading if the hand was completely closed. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll draw the GUI first. We'll draw those sound files first. Yeah, we'll draw the GUI over this. Of draw circle X and Y. So X will be the we'll make it a variable for this, temp Y, and we'll make the circle radius of 20. Alright, so X will be float temp X be equal to X location, which is 0 to 1. X location from the slider, 0 to 1, times the width of our display, which is 400. These waveform displays are 400, plus the starting X position. Temp Y will be equal to Y location times the size of all, or actually the size of one. The Y location will go from 0 to 3. So 0 to 3 times the height of just one of these will span all 4. And then plus the starting position. And then, cool. So we'll have a circle to display where in this sound palette that we should be drawing from. Go ahead and change the color because we can barely see this. Of set color. Whew. Let's make it white. You know what? Let's be aesthetic about this. Let's do Alice blue. Cool. Oh. Okay, it's not quite getting to where it needs to be. Yes, we have to add halfway to this. So the plus the 20, we can just do this twice just to make it clear. Plus the 20 of the offset from the side of the screen, or the side of the window, plus halfway through that visual, so that's 60. these values aren't actually affecting the sound yet, other than we're truncating which buffer we're listening to. Let's add one more visual element. Let's make the size of the circle dependent on the openness of the left hand. So let's do float temp size equal to left open times, let's do, I don't know. Well, these are 120 large. How far do we want to go out? 120 seems reasonable, actually. Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, you have to change it in the actual function here. But this will give us a visual representation of wherever the circle is covering is where the granulator is allowed to pull from. And this doesn't matter, but it's gonna bother me. That circle resolution is real low. Offset resolution, maybe? Of circle resolution. Let's do something, I mean, this is 2017. Let's do like 80. So note that, well, that's not true. I was going to say that you should note that the circle is only going to cover at most 2 at once, but that's not accurate. I must be misunderstanding what that resolution means, or the size means, but I'm not going to look into it right now. Maybe that's the radius, not the diameter. But then I'd expect it to be even bigger. But anyway, I'm not worried about it. It's just a small visual representation of what's happening. So it's not actually happening yet. First, let's fix the fact that it switches suddenly. It doesn't mix between these sound files. So let's fix that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a small coffee. Yeah, I'm out of coffee, guys and gals. So, quick break.